And we're live. Okie dokie. Y'all, it has been one of those days already, and it's not even, it's been one of those days. Just coffee. For now. All right, let me scroll up through the chat, see who we've got, who has been patient enough to stick with us. Wow, we got lots of people. All right, we got Sandy the Sane, we got Linda, we got Joan, we got Robert X. Hello to all. Hello, Morton. Welcome, my friend. Paul Camish is here, ready for some smiting. Welcome, my friend. Says off with his head. Joan points out that God is not too kind to his prophets. Joan is correct. Robert X, we got people talking other languages in the chat. We got Angie Dell. We got Mistress Angelica. Welcome, everybody. We got a full house today. Uh-oh. Joan says she can't hear me. Dear. Well, the microphone was working a minute ago in the test studio. Let me see what's going on. Audio, test. Let me try this. Okay, well, the headphones are working. Camera's set. The microphone can hear me. We got Godless Granny. We got Stuttering Chris. Godless Granny can hear me. Paul can hear me. Joan, can you hear me now? Linda can hear me. All right. I don't know what was going on. Maybe it was just a booting up issue. All right. Something's going on with my chair. There we go. All righty. How is everybody today? It has been so long since last we congregated. We ended, if I recall correctly, on a bit of a cliffhanger. Who's ready to get off this cliff one way or the other? Where's my fucking Bible? There it is. Something's different. I ain't turned on my fish tank light. Y'all, one sec. Always use your hand sanitizer after dealing with anything fish related. Yes. Thank you, Paul. Got another patron. And thank you to Miss Linda for joining. Must be something wrong with Joan's laptop. Oh, Joan, can you still not hear me? Oh, gosh. What has your son done to your laptop now? All right. Everybody waving, everybody saying hello. Everybody can hear me except for Joan. I'm so sorry. Okay. Well, first things first, right out the gate, we got to say thank you to my marvelous patrons. We got to say hello to Paul Camish, to Brainbug, and to Linda, the wonderful people who are investing in the financial success of this channel and helping me bring about greater and greater things. Fantastic. Thank you all so much from the bottom of my cold, dark heart. I thank you, and I thank you all. I got to send out a special shout out to Amiga Nuts. You know what you did, my friend, and it is immensely, immensely appreciated. All right. Well, to anybody watching this in the future and who stuck with me through my long-winded, rambling intro, fish tank lights and all, I got to say welcome to the Junk Shop Library channel, where our shtick is improv Bible study. We read every word of the King James Version of 1611 because it is in the public domain. No copyright fears there. And then we rip it a new asshole because it deserves it, god damn it. Also, in accordance with the copper regulations, I'm obliged to point out that this show is absolutely positively under no circumstances for the chillins. No children allowed. This is an 18 and up show, although most of the time I don't have to set the streams to 18 and up. Why is that? Because we talk about the Bible, and the Bible is a foul, foul, vile, vile, bad, 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 bad book full of bad, bad stuff. Yuck. Which is why we here amongst the smiters have rebranded. It is no longer the Holy Bible containing the Old and New Testaments. It is now the big book of war crimes and outdated regulations, subtitle Utter Madness and Abuse. All right. Robert X says, if anyone can make me a theist, it will be Junk Shop TM. You end up the wrong kind of theist, my friend. You're going to be worshiping something. I don't know what it is, and I don't want it anywhere near me. Good God in fucking heaven. Yes, Mistress Angelica, turn back now, children. Mistress Angelica says, glad to see some familiar and some new faces. Yes, and it is good to have you with us again. I hadn't seen you around in a minute. Paul Camish points out, it's a good book because the good book says it's good. Old Junk Shop's both a little hyper and pretty highly caffeinated this morning, and that's the best. I forgot part of Robert X's text. Scroll back. Oh, just kidding. No, he won't. Yes. Sorry, I did leave that part out, making a straw man out of Mr. Robert X's statement, joke. Santi the Sane says it's great for rolling paper. Good God, look at the size of these pages. Who do I look like to you, Bob Marley? All right, well, let's launch in to the 7th chapter of the book of 2 Kings and find out, as it says in the title, whether Mr. Elisha, prophet of God, gets to keep his head or not. Because last we heard, there were men at the door of Mr. Elisha's house clamoring for his head. Let's find out, shall we? First things first. Then Elisha said, hear ye the word of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord, tomorrow about this time shall a measure of fine flour be sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley for a shekel in the gate of Samaria. Then a Lord on whose hand the king leaned answered the man of God and said, behold, if the Lord would make windows in heaven, might this thing be? And he said, behold, thou shalt see it with thine eyes, but shalt not eat thereof. And there were 4 leprous men at the entering in of the gate, and they said one to another, Why sit we here until we die? If we say we will enter into the city, then the famine is in the city, and we shall die there. And if we sit still here, we die also. Now therefore come, and let us fall unto the host of the Syrians. If they save us alive, we shall live. And if they kill us, we shall but die. And they rose up in the twilight to go unto the camp of the Syrians. And when they were come to the uttermost part of the camp of Syria, behold, there was no man there. For the Lord had made the host of the Syrians to hear a noise of chariots and a noise of horses, even the noise of a great host. And they said one to another, Lo, the king of Israel hath hired against us the kings of the Hittites and the kings of the Egyptians to come upon us. Wherefore they arose and fled in the twilight, and left their tents and their horses and their asses, even the camp as it was, and fled for their life. And when these lepers came to the uttermost part of the camp, they went into one tent, and did eat and drink, and carried thence silver and gold and raiment, and went and hid it. And came again, and entered into another tent, and carried thence also, and went and hid it. Then they said one to another, We do not well. This day is a day of good tidings, and behold our peace. If we tarry till the morning light, some mischief may come upon us. Now therefore come, that we may go and tell the king's household. So they came and called unto the porter of the city, and they told them, saying, We came to the camp of the Syrians, and behold, there was no man there, neither voice of man, but horses tied, and asses tied, and the tents as they were. And he called the porters, and they told it to the king's house within. And the kings arose in the night, and said unto his servants, I will now shew you what the Syrians have done to us. They know that we be hungry. Therefore they are gone out of the camp to hide themselves in the fields, saying, When they come out of the city, we shall catch them alive, and get into the city. And one of his servants answered and said, Let some take, I pray thee, 5 of the horses that remain, which are left in the city. Behold, they are as all the multitude of Israel that are left in it. And behold, I say, they are even as all the multitude of the Israelites that are consumed. And let us send and see. They took therefore 2 chariot horses, and the king sent after the host of the Syrians, saying, Go and see. They went after them unto Jordan, and said, Lo, all the way was full of garments and vessels, which the Syrians had cast away in their haste. And the messengers returned and told the king. And the people went out and spoiled the tent of the Syrians. So a measure of fine flour was sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley for a shekel, according to the word of the Lord. And the king appointed the Lord on whose hand he leaned to have the charge of the gate. And the people trod upon him in the gate, and he died, as the man of God had said, who spoke when the king came down to him. And it came to pass, as the man of God had spoken to the king, saying, 2 measures of barley for a shekel, and a measure of fine flour for a shekel, shall be tomorrow about this time at the gate of Samaria. And that Lord answered the man of God, and said, Now, behold, if the Lord should make windows in heaven, might such a thing be? And he said, Behold, thou shalt see it with thine eyes, but shalt not eat thereof. And so it fell out unto him, for the people trod upon him in the gate, and he died. And there we have the 7th chapter of the 2nd book of the Kings. All right. Joan says all of YouTube doesn't have sound. Check and make sure. Why am I talking? Why is a Christmas song stuck in my head? Nerdy Rodent, Welcome, Nerdy. Hello, my friend. Let's see here. Joan's going to stick to the phone. All right. Okay, so apparently Mr. Elisha got to keep his head. Hey, Wonder Lady, welcome. Oh, she's finally getting a kitten. I know you've been wanting one. Good, good. I'm glad. Critical Cripple, welcome, Dave. All the cool kids are here. I'm so happy. Thank you for joining us. All righty. So, apparently Mr. Elisha kept his head, at least for a while. I beg your pardon. Cover your cough, y'all. Make sure you do. Even as our states start to open back up, we are not free from the hazards of the Rona. All righty. So one of the lords of the king come to collect Elisha's head. And Elisha comes to the door and says, hey, I know you're all pissed off because of the famine, but it's about to be over. You ain't going to have to resort to cannibalism no more. And they don't hardly believe him. And this Lord of the Kings, this Lord of the King apostrophe S, this Lord belonging to the King, says, you know, God could make windows in the firmament of heaven and give us rain and we'd get crops any day. But is he going to do it? And Elisha says, there you go doubting again. You know what? It's sure enough going to happen. This famine's going to end, but you won't live to see it. Huh. I'm learning my cranky prophet ways. Remember, I interned under Mr. Elijah. You remember Elijah who liked to burn fuckers alive? I'm getting into my crabby phase of profiting. I've gone through the incompetent phase. I've gone through the weird necrophiliac phase. And now I'm going into the cranky phase. So, a handful of lepers are waiting outside the city, waiting to die and trying to figure out whether they'd rather die in the city or out. And they say, you know what? The Syrians don't seem to have as much of a problem with lepers as do the Israelites. They had one as a great captain of their host. Remember? Mr. Naaman, who came to the city and got himself all healed by Elisha by taking a bath. But they had a great captain of the host who was a leper. So we'll go and we'll take our chances with the Syrians encamped outside the gate. What's the worst that can happen? They're going to kill us? It's better than starving to death, God damn it. So they go to the Syrian camp. And there's nobody there. Nobody. Just tents full of gold and silver and changes of raiment and horses and asses and vessels and shit. Apparently the Syrians just fucked right off, just noped on out of there for no particular reason. Except the narrator tells us why. For once, the narrator provides a reason, and it's a gem. Apparently, God provided a mass auditory hallucination for the Syrian army, the sound of a great many horses and chariots. And the Syrians came up with a powerful, specific explanation for why they were hearing horses and chariots in the middle of the night. They said, those sound like Hittite and Egyptian chariots, which means the king of the Israelites has called in reinforcements. Amiga Nuts, hello, my friend. Welcome, welcome. Hello, Brain Bug. Good to see you again. My gosh, everybody's here. It's amazing. It's amazing. And so, having decided that the Hittites and the Egyptians have been summoned in to grant the Israelites a reprieve in the siege of Samaria, the Syrians just fuck right on out of, just nope right on out of there, and nope, all the way back to Syria, which is the explanation given for why. What the hell? Oh, that's the mail. Never get over how noisy that mail slot is. Which is the explanation the narrator gives for why the camp is empty. And the lepers pillage one tent and they hide everything away. And they pillage another tent and they hide everything away. And then they say, you know what? I think the king of Israel probably would like to know that the Syrians ain't encamped against us no more. So they go back to the door of the city and they come to the porter and they say, hey, the Syrians are gone. We just went over to the Syrian camp and there ain't nobody there. They left all their shit behind too, including their food. And the porter says, I think the king might like to hear about this. So he goes to some of the king's men and he said, apparently, according to the word of some lepers, the Syrians have fucked right on back off to Syria and they have left all their shit behind, including their silver, their gold, their horses, their asses, their food and shit. And the men of the king relay the word to the king. And the king says, all right, food and gold and silver and horses and shit. We done ate all of our horses. Here's the problem, though. I suspect it of being a trap. A trap. Because the Syrians are crafty people. And I know what I would do was I crafty people. I would make it look like I had abandoned my riches in the middle of the besieging place. And I would go hide in the desert. And as soon as the starving ass children of Israel come straggling out of Samaria to find and take and eat and drink and feast and pillage and plunder, I would fall upon the starving people and slaughter them all. That's what I would do. So we're going to sit our happy ass here and starve to death instead of risking it. And some of the king's men say, well, it's worth checking, right? I mean, we've already resorted to cannibalism and we done ate all of our horses. So can we take a small expeditionary force and just check it out? I mean, what's the worst that can happen? We fall in battle under the swords of the Syrians as opposed to starving to death here on a diet of cannibalism. The king says, oh, fine, just go. So they go and they check. And lo and behold, there's all the Syrian shit just laying out there in the middle of the fucking desert. And no Syrians. And they don't get fallen upon and smitten. And they go back to the city and tell the king, sure enough, there's all kinds of Syrian shit laying out there in the middle of the desert, and we did not get smited. And the king says, food for everyone, and not horse meat nor human meat. And the people go stampeding out of the city. Stampede so bad that they happen to tread to death one of the king's lords of one of the king's advisors. And lo and behold, it was the one of the king's advisors who doubted the word of Elisha and who Elisha told he would not live to see the end of the famine. And that was the end of the chapter. So no smiting, just treading to death. And the end of the cannibal days of the children of Israel. So to answer the question in the title of the stream, Elisha kept his head. Joan points out, who leaves their horses and donkeys if they try to flee? Does a horse not run faster? You'd think so, right? That's a good point. Apparently they fled on foot all the way back to Samaria in such a hurry that they didn't think to ride back to Samaria, not Samaria, but Syria. This book needs an editor, something fierce. It's a really good point. And here I thought I was poking all the holes in this book. You know who's really good at poking holes in this book? My team of smiters. Yeah, Syria's a long way running, says Joan. Yeah, she's right. Talking about the tiny little praying mantises. Those are adorable. Are they not? If you hadn't seen Brainbug's couple of videos where he shows off his tiny little baby praying mantises, you need to check that out after this stream. Paul says, Joan, it's in the good book. Don't question the good book. Oh, Robert X has the perfect explanation. There we go. The Lord made them forget their horses because the Israelites done ate all of their horses in the middle of the famine and need replacement horses. That works. Oh, y'all know the hashtag. I want to see it in the chat. Weird fucking book. All right. So, we've ended the great famine in Samaria that had the children of Israel eating their children and their horses. Mr. Elisha kept his head, and somebody got himself treaded to death for the sin of doubt. Remember, don't doubt. God doesn't like blasphemy. God doesn't like other God worship, and God doesn't like doubt. Those three things tend to get your ass dead, at least in the Old Testament. Joan says, hashtag the smiters. Can't do the F word. Well, non-mods. Yeah, sorry, Joan. Oh, Joan, that means you got to do Stuttering Chris's thing. Weird heckin' book. Oh, Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes-Benz? All right, chapter 8. Then spake Elisha unto the woman whose son he had restored to life. Remember that? Saying, arise, and go thou and thine household, and sojourn wheresoever thou canst sojourn. For the Lord hath called for a famine, and it shall also come upon the land 7 years. And the woman arose, and did after the saying of the man of God, and she went with her household, and sojourned in the land of the Philistines 7 years. And it came to pass at the 7 years' end that the woman returned out of the land of the Philistines, and she went forth to cry unto the king for her house and for her land. And the king talked with Gehazi, the servant of the man of God, saying, tell me, I pray thee, all the great things that Elisha hath done. And it came to pass, as he was telling the king how he had restored a dead body to life, that, behold, the woman, whose son he had restored to life, cried unto the king for her house and for her land. And Gehazi said, my lord, O king, This is the woman, and this is her son, whom Elisha restored to life. And when the king asked the woman, she told him. So the king appointed unto her a certain officer, saying, Restore all that was hers, and all the fruits of the field since the day that she left the land, even until now. And Elisha came to Damascus, and Ben-Hadad, the king of Syria, was sick. And it was told him, saying, The man of God is come hither. And the king said unto Hazael, Take a present in thine hand, and go meet the man of God, and inquire of the Lord by him, saying, Shall I recover of this disease? So Hazael went to meet him, and took a present with him, even of every good thing in Damascus, 40 camels worth, and came and stood before him, and said, Thy son Ben-Hadad, king of Syria, hath sent me to thee, saying, Shall I recover of this disease? And Elisha said unto him, Go, say unto him, Thou mayest certainly recover, howbeit the Lord hath shewed me that he shall surely die. And he settled his countenance steadfastly until he was ashamed, and the man of God wept. And Hazael said, Why weepeth my Lord? And he answered, Because I know the evil that thou wilt do unto the children of Israel. Their strongholds wilt thou set on fire, and their young men wilt thou slay with the sword, and wilt dash their children, and rip up their women with child. And Hazael said, But what, is thy servant a dog, that he should do this great thing? And Elisha answered, The Lord hath shewed me that thou shalt be king over Syria. So he departed from Elisha, and came to his master, who said to him, What said Elisha to thee? And he answered, He told me that thou shouldest surely recover. And it came to pass on the morrow that he took a thick cloth, and dipped it in water, and spread it on his face, so that he died, and Hazael reigned in his stead. And in the 5th year of Joram, the son of Ahab, king of Israel, Jehoshaphat being then king of Judah, Jehoram, the son of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, began to reign. 32 years old was he when he began to reign, and he reigned 8 years in Jerusalem. And he walked in the way of the kings of Israel, as did the house of Ahab, for the daughter of Ahab was his wife, and he did evil in the sight of the Lord. Yet the Lord would not destroy Judah for David his servant's sake, as he promised him to give him alway a light, and to his children. In his days Edom revolted from under the hand of Judah, and made a king over themselves. So Joram went over to Zair, and all the chariots with him. And he rose by night, and smote the Edomites which compassed him about, and the captains of their chariots, and the people fled into their tents. Yet Edom revolted from under the hand of Judah unto this day. Then Libnah revolted at the same time. And the rest of the acts of Joram and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? And Joram slept with his fathers, and was buried with his fathers in the city of David, and Ahaziah his son reigned in his stead. In the 12th year of Joram, the son of Ahab, king of Israel, did Ahaziah the son of Jehoram, king of Judah, begin to reign. 22 years old was Ahaziah when he began to reign, and he reigned 1 year in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Athaliah, the daughter of Omri, king of Israel. And he walked in the way of the house of Ahab, and did evil in the sight of the Lord, as did the house of Ahab, for he was the son-in-law of the house of Ahab. And he went with Joram, the son of Ahab, to the war against Hazael, king of Syria, in Ramoth Gilead, and the Syrians wounded Joram. And King Joram went back to be healed in Jezreel of the wounds which the Syrians had given him at Ramah, when he fought against Hazael, king of Syria. And Ahaziah, the son of Jehoram, king of Judah, went down to see Joram, the son of Ahab, in Jezreel, because he was sick. And there we have chapter 8 of the 2nd book of the Kings. it's sections like that why things like the chronological Bibles exist. Because that shit was all over the fucking place. All right. Let me check in on the chat. See what happened while the good book was all over the fucking place. Dave dropping the links in the chat. Thank you, my friend. Angel singing. I think Robert X singing too. Everybody's singing. All right. Yeah, Joan points out that the middle part was something of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah, no kidding. Okay. That part at least I could follow. That part was pretty straightforward. I mean, you know, anybody who's read anything about kings and prophets over the years or anything about the history of medieval Italy or really who can just follow language, can follow that pretty good. But the first part of the chapter is a hell of a backtrack, because that goes all the way back to where was it when he was lying down on top of the dead kid and bringing him back to life? That was way back in chapter 4. Okay, so the woman, you remember the woman he celestially knocked up, the great woman in the town, who didn't want a son but who got one anyway, then grew up and had a headache and died. Apparently, way back at that time, after he restored the son to life, he buttonholed the woman. Says, look, here's the thing. God has decreed a great famine. And there's you're not going to want to be around for it. So you and your newly awakened son that you didn't want, that I stretched out upon, y'all should go somewhere else. So they fuck off to the land of the Philistines and they stay there during the 7-year famine. And then the 7-year famine happens back in chapter 6 and chapter 7. And then the famine breaks and the woman comes back. Apparently her father died. Not her father. Her husband. Her husband died at some point. Well, she comes back and I am so confused, y'all. She comes back and she wants her house and her lands back. Apparently the husband must have died before the famine. And while she's trying to get her stuff back, the king is talking to Gehazi. You remember Gehazi? He was Elisha's servant who illicitly got 2 years worth of wages in silver from Naaman the Syrian after Naaman the Syrian was healed of his leprosy. And Elisha wouldn't take anything in return except for 2 donkeys full worth of dirt that was never explained and that he never apparently did anything with, including build an altar. And as a result of which, Gehazi was struck with leprosy, him and all his children forever. Well, apparently we've gone way back in time to when, because you can't tell me the king of Israel would just be having a random conversation with a leper white as snow, and that happened way back in chapter 5. That was before the famine, which lasted 7 years. And so while Gehazi, pre-leprosy, apparently, is regaling the king with the tales of the deeds of Elisha, including the miraculous resurrection of the great woman's son, word gets to the king that this woman is back in town, except it's after the famine, 7 years long famine. And y'all, what the hell? This is worse than the Texas Chainsaw Massacre timeline. And if you've ever tried to write out a timeline for that series, you know what a headache that can be. Paul Camish says, I'm starting to think this book isn't factual. I think someone made it up and they just said God did it. I might be wrong, but it sure does work that way. Look that way. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, this part, this makes no fucking sense. It's like I'm trying to follow this. I mean, I know it's just a book. I'm not, I could tear pages out of this. I could set it on fire. I don't give a shit. Except that I'm saving that for the end. Stick around. Yes. See, exactly. Faye, thank you, Wonder Lady Faye. The Bible makes 0 sense. And that's on a good day. And this chapter 8, this is not a good day. This is not a good day for the holy book. Okay. So, the first half or third of the chapter aside, can we just write it off as being a bad editorial moment? Just, a page that got lost and stuck back in the wrong place, because I can't make heads nor tails of the timeline here. So anyway, Ben-Hadad, the king of Damascus in Syria, is sick. Yes, Dave, my issue is with the writing style. In terms of the book, yes, my issue is with the writing style. One of my many issues with this book is with the writing style. So Ben-Hadad falls sick, and he sends a messenger to Elisha. Since apparently he ain't got no prophets of his own. He sends a messenger, Hazael, says, am I going to get better from this sickness? Hazael comes to Elisha and says, Ben-Hadad, the king of Damascus, he's sick, and he wants to know, is he going to get better? And Elisha says, he's going to get better, all right, but he also going to die. And Hazael says, what the fuck does that mean? And Elisha says, well, I have had a vision of the horrible things that you're going to do to the children of Israel. And Hazael says, what do you mean, me? What do you mean the horrible shit that I'm going to do to the children of Israel? I'm a nobody. Ben-Hadad is the king. He's the one who's going to decree that horrible things be done. And Elisha says, well, yeah, but the Lord showed me in a vision that you're going to be king of Damascus. And Hazael says, and goes back to Damascus. And Ben-Hadad, king of Damascus, says, well, Hazael, how saith the prophet? Am I going to get well? And he says, oh, Elisha said you're going to get well, all right. You are not indeed going to die of this sickness. And the next day, he smothers him to death with a wet towel and takes over the kingdom and starts waging war all willy-nilly. Well, then we get to waging war all willy-nilly, and then we get another one of these sections that we get so much where the writers say he, and this guy rose to the throne and he did bad shit because remember, he was descended from Ahab. But God would not take away the kingdom from him because of the promise that he made to his walking in righteousness servant David way back all those many generations ago. And then there was lots of other shit that he did, but I don't have to recount it here because there's a whole book of the shit that the kings of Israel and Judah did. And you can, if you want to know more, you can just look it up in that book. Another one of those books lost to history. And this goes on and goes on and goes on until the end of the chapter. And that's all there is. Robert X says, wow, that is a great predicament. Yeah, you're going to die. And then they murder him. Oh, dear. Amiga Nuts wants to make the title even longer. Big Book of War Crimes and Outdated Regulations. Subtitle, Utter Looney Tunes, Madness and Abuse. Wonder Lady says, the Bible makes 0 sense. And Wonder Lady is right. She also wants to be more flexible. Indeed. So many plots. Yes. Talking about everybody speculating about the process of the writing of the book. Yeah. It's almost like it was written with an end goal in mind, or at the very least edited with an end goal in mind. Zoop. Wow, chat went fast all of a sudden. Zoobity, zoobity, zoop, zoop, zoop. Who's that? Oh, Daily Atheist is here. Hi, Chris. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, my friend. All righty. Well, God, that was a weird chapter. You know what? I'm gonna mark that chapter. Whoops, no, I can't dog ear it because there's stuff written on the other side. I'm gonna mark that chapter in case we need an example later on of a specific part, an example of a words of my life. The specific example of a part that makes no fucking sense. And then we're going to roll on to chapter 9. Which hopefully makes a little more goddamn sense than chapter 8, because chapter 8 was all over the fucking place. Jesus Christ. Let's see. And Elijah the prophet called one of the children of the prophets. I would love to know what is the... Oops, I'm getting a little glitchy on my end. Do I look okay to everybody else? All right. I would love... What was I saying? Oh, I would love to know... I'm going to have to look this up at some point. What various translations use where the King James says sons of the prophets. If this is a title, if this means like minor prophets, like AAA league prophets, or if this means, I mean, is it a hereditary thing? Does it mean literal sons, or does it mean like metaphorical sons? Like minor league prophets, like ain't so good. Y'all keep me honest, right? Says Robert. Hour length else's. Well, it's a shame because it looks like there's a weird miracle coming up. Let's see. We'll just keep... Y'all keep me honest. Let me know in the chat if it keeps on being weird. I don't know what's going on. Nothing else is streaming in the house at the moment, so just let me know, and I'll try to keep a better eye on it out of the corner of my eye. Roboting, damn it! We were having so much fun too. I don't want to sound and visuals out of saying, well, there's a surprise. Wouldn't be a day in the library if there wasn't some kind of crazy shit going on. Yeah, it's bad all over the place on multiple continents. So you know what? I'm not going to try to go into chapter 9 because if it's this bad at this point, it's only going to get worse. Well, I certainly thank you all for coming. Appreciate you sticking around with me, even though I was a little late out the gate getting started. Oh, maybe it's just Europe. Amiga Nut says it's not it's not roboting for him. And Paul says, oh, now I'm okay again. Oh, it's going better. Okay, well, maybe it was just a temporary malady. Maybe I've been healed by the power of God. Dave dropping my links just in case. Thank you, my friend. Robert X says, I'm never late. Yes. A wizard is never late. He always arrives precisely when he intends to. Oh, that's what it is. We were just waiting for B. The computer wanted to make sure that B showed up. Mindful of health. Sorry. I'll get this right. I'll get it straight in my head. Welcome. Welcome. All right. And Elisha the prophet called one of the children of the prophets, and said unto him, Gird up thy loins, and take this box of oil in thine hand, and go to Ramoth Gilead. And when thou comest thither, look out there Jehu, the son of Jehoshaphat, the son of Nimshi, and go in, and make him arise up from among his brethren, and carry him to an inner chamber. Then take the box of oil, and pour it on his head, and say, Thus saith the Lord, I have anointed thee king over Israel. Then open the door, and flee, and tarry not. So the young man, even the young man the prophet, went to Ramoth Gilead. And when he came, behold, why am I having, it's because I don't have my fucking glasses on. I was about to say, why am I having so much trouble keeping this shit in focus? There we go. And he came, behold, the captains of the host were sitting, and he said, I have an errand to thee, O captain. And Jehu said, Unto which of all us? Unto which of all us? God damn, they need an editor in this shit. And he said, To thee, O captain. And he arose and went into the house. And he poured the oil on his head, and said unto him, Thus saith Lord God of Israel, I have anointed thee king over the people of the Lord, even over Israel. And thou shalt smite the house of Ahab thy master, and I may avenge. I shall try that again. And thou shalt smite the house of Ahab thy master, that I may avenge the blood of my servants the prophets, and the blood of all the servants of the Lord at the hand of Jezebel. For the whole house of Ahab shall perish, and I will cut off from Ahab him that pisseth against the wall, and him that is shut up and left in Israel. And I will make the house of Ahab like the house of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, and like the house of Baasha the son of Ahijah. And the dogs shall eat Jezebel in the portion of Jezreel, and there shall be none to bury her. And he opened the door and fled. Then Jehu came forth to the servants of his Lord, and one said to him, Is all well? Wherefore came this mad fellow to thee? And he said unto them, Ye know the man and his communication. And they said, It is false. Tell us now. And he said, Thus and thus spake he to me, saying, Thus saith the Lord, I have anointed thee king over Israel. Then they hasted, and took every man his garment, and put it under him on the top of the stairs, and blew with trumpets, saying, Jehu is king. So Jehu, the son of Jehoshaphat, the son of Nimshi, conspired against Joram. Now Joram had kept Ramoth Gilead, he and all Israel, because of Hazael, king of Syria. But King Joram was returned to be healed in Jezreel of the wounds which the Syrians had given him when he fought with Hazael, king of Syria. And Jehu said, If it be your minds, then let none go forth nor escape out of the city to go tell it in Jezreel. So Jehu rode in a chariot and went to Jezreel, for Joram lay there. And Ahaziah, king of Judah, was come down to see Joram. And there stood a watchman on the tower in Jezreel, and he spied the company of Jehu as he came, and said, I see a company. And Joram said, Take an horseman, and send to meet them, and let him say, Is it peace? So there went one on horseback to meet him, and said, Thus saith the king, Is it peace? And Jehu said, What hast thou to do with peace? Turn thee behind me. And the watchman told, saying, The messenger came to them, but he cometh not again. Then he sent out a second on horseback, which came to them, and said, Thus saith the king, Is it peace? And Jehu said, What hast thou to do with peace? Turn thee behind me. And the watchman told, saying, He came even unto them, and cometh not again. And the driving is like the driving of Jehu the son of Nimshi, for he driveth furiously. And Joram said, Make ready. And his chariot was made ready. And Joram king of Israel and Ahaziah king of Judah went out, each in his chariot, and went out against Jehu, and met him in the portion of Naboth the Jezreelite. And it came to pass, when Joram saw Jehu, that he said, Is it peace, Jehu? And he answered, What peace, so long as the whoredoms of thy mother Jezebel and her witchcrafts are so many? And Joram turned his hands and fled, and said to Ahaziah, There is treachery, O Ahaziah. And Jehu drew a bow with his full strength, and smote Jehoram between his arms, and the arrow went out at his heart, and he sunk down in his chariot. Then said Jehu to Bidkar his captain, Take up, and cast him in the portion of the field of Naboth the Jezreelite. For remember how that, when I and thou rode together after Ahab his father, the Lord laid this burden upon him. Surely I have seen yesterday the blood of Naboth, and the blood of his sons, saith the Lord. And I will requite thee in this plat, saith the Lord. Now therefore take, and cast him into the plat of ground, according to the word of the Lord. But when Ahaziah the king of Judah saw this, he fled by way of the garden house. And Jehu followed after him, and said, Smite him also in the chariot. And they did so at the going up to Gur, which is by Ibleam. And he fled to Megiddo, and died there. And his servants carried him in a chariot to Jerusalem, and buried him in his sepulchre with his fathers in the city of David. And in the 11th year of Joram the son of Ahab began Ahaziah to reign over Judah. And when Jehu was come to Jezreel, Jezebel heard of it, and she painted her face, and teared her head, and looked out at a window. And as Jehu entered in at the gate, she said, Had Zimri peace, who slew his master? And he lifted up his face to the window, and said, Who is on my side? Who? And they looked out to him 2 or 3 eunuchs. And he said, Throw her down. So they threw her down, and some of her blood was sprinkled on the wall and on the horses, and he trod her under foot. And when he was come in, he did eat and drink, and said, Go, see now this cursed woman, and bury her, for she is a king's daughter. And they went to bury her, but they found no more of her than the skull and the feet and the palms of her hands. Wherefore they came again and told him. And he said, This is the word of the Lord, which he spake by his servant Elijah the Tishbite, saying, In the portion of Jezreel shall dogs eat the flesh of Jezebel, and the carcass of Jezebel shall be as dung upon the face of the field in the portion of Jezreel, so that they shall not say, This is Jezebel. And there we have the 9th chapter of the 2nd book of the Kings. All right, let's see what's been going on in the chat. Come on, scroller. Scroll up. All right, there we go. Swin B came in. Mindful of Health says, Amiga, you are now officially my shill. Amiga's going to run out of people to be able to shill. Come on, scroller, work for me. Now, would we? comment or message, whatever it was, earlier, that you enjoyed them on your way to work. I'm so glad you enjoyed them, my friend. Anybody who doesn't know is not subscribed to my Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month, you can gain exclusive access to the Junk Shop Reads Junk Shop series, where I video myself reading and commenting upon my own fiction. No ego here. Smiting, smiting. Joan points out that pisseth against a wall sounds very not Middle Eastern, because they pee sitting down because of their long robes. Yes, that's if memory serves, that's a translation issue coming out of a Middle Eastern language and into the King James, the English of 1611, and all of it's a euphemism for male persons and male descendants. So all these portions where somebody says that the Lord will cut off from thee everyone which pisseth against the wall, that just means they will kill all of your male descendants. B says, repetitive shit, huh? Yes. Welcome to the Old Testament. Angie Dell sends many, many peace signs, and I have no idea why. This has not been a peaceful chapter. Or smiting. Santi says, Junk Shop's shirt is making me sweat. All righty. In what way? Santi says IQ turns into a mod automatically when he shows up. Yes, it's a superpower. Oh dear. Robert says I was roboting. Now we're roboting all over the place at some point. Angie Dell has a robot emoji. I've never seen that. Yeah, let's see. We were roboting at 3:12. What time? Okay, so that was about 5-ish minutes ago. And it cleared up. Okay. It cleared up. Okay. Hallelujah. Welcome back, Morton. You missed some weird shit. What a surprise, right? Okay, so the death of Jezebel, pretty well known to anybody who had Sunday school and church in days. Who is on my side? Throw her down. And they did. And her body was eaten by dogs. It's one of those gross little stories that we all loved so much when we were young and bloodthirsty, as opposed to now being older and bloodthirsty. I still blame this book for my great love of horror. B points out if I have my phone too close to my laptop, I robot. Huh. Is that like having your phone too close to a speaker, where when the signal comes through, you get that. Okay, well, hang on. It's as far as I can reach without doing an actual toss. See if that makes any difference. That is good to know. Thank you, B. I'll make sure, and I'll leave it in the other room next time. Okay, so the treachery and the rise to power of Jehu in Israel. Elisha takes one of his unnamed and presumably slightly disposable sons of the prophets. Oh, Wonder Lady was never Sunday school. You know, sometimes I envy the people who were not brought up in this shit. And then sometimes I remember that what I do is completely dependent on having an extensive background in this mess. And, you know, I know I'd be doing something analogous with something else, but I'm having so much fun with this that honestly, even with the religious trauma that came with it, I don't know that I'd trade all those years of study. I really don't. Okay, so Elisha takes a random red shirt and says, take this box of oil and go to go to Israel and find Jehu, who was a captain of the host, and take him aside, well aside. Take him inside and into an inner room. King of Israel run like, and so, and when his Jehu tries to pass it off as just some crazy prophet with some yammering, and they won't let him get away with it. And he says, well, okay, here's the thing. I've been a little bit, I've been prophesized to, and I'm kind of king of Israel now. So who's with me for a revolution? And they're all with him for a revolution. And they blow trumpets and they throw down their garments at his feet and they rise up en masse and they march on the king of Jerusalem's house. And there's a big fucking battle in the field. Mama Atheist, hello, Amanda, welcome. Dave says, how goes the cyborgification? Am I roboting again? Or is y'all talking about something else? And there's this huge battle in the field. And there's smiting and a body cast into the field of Naboth. Angie's got to go. Hey, dogs need seeing to. Angie, thank you so much for stopping in. It's always It's always lovely to see you. As always, love you. Take care. Everybody make sure you're subscribed to Angie's channel. And then we get the call back to the vineyard of Naboth. Remember that story? That was a way back during the times when Ahab was still alive. And the long and the short of it was the vineyard of Naboth was coveted by Ahab, and Jezebel sent some men to testify falsely against Naboth that he had blasphemed against God and the king. And so he was stoned with stones until he died. And then the vineyard of Naboth passed into the ownership of bad King Ahab because of the deeds of wicked Queen Jezebel. Well, they continue and kill the king, or rather they smite the king mightily, and he ends up dying somewhere else, and they take him back to Jerusalem and bury him in the tomb of his fathers, as is the way. They finally get to the king's city, and Jezebel, who in my mind is played by a Dangerous Liaisons era Glenn Close, hears that the rebellion is at hand, and she holds herself up in an inner inner chamber, and paints her face and waits. And they send out a messenger to this mighty host that is descending upon them. And the messenger says, "Are you here for peaceful reasons?" Jehu says, "Shut the fuck up with your peaceful reasons. Join the host." And the guy does. And the watchman on top of the wall turns back and says, not only is the watchman not, the messenger not coming back towards us, but he's joined the host that's coming on bearing down towards us. So they send out another messenger. Same thing happens. So they send out another messenger. Same thing happens. And the watchman on top of the wall looks out and he sees this motherfucker at the front of the host driving on like a crazy man. And says, "That looks like the driving of Jehu, captain of the host." And when word gets back to Ms. Jezebel that Jehu has risen in revolt, she goes to a window to look out and watch and see. Jehu gets to the foot of the tower where Jezebel's peeping out. He looks up and sees her peeping out. Doesn't even offer her the courtesy of a greeting. He instead shouts up, "Who is on the side of the rebellion?" And two or three eunuchs, two or three of Jezebel's personal slaves, pop their heads out the window and say, "We're on your side." And he says, "Give her a push." And they give her a push. And down tumbles Jezebel and hits the ground so hard that her blood splatters up the wall and splatters on Jehu and splatters on Jehu's feet. Jehu enters the city amidst much pomp and fanfare, and sits down and has a kingly dinner. And after dinner, he stretches and says, "You know what? I feel kind of bad just leaving Jezebel's body out there. She was the daughter of a king after all. Let's bring her in and bury her properly next to her husband." And they go out with every intention of doing so, and all they find is little pieces of Jezebel strewn about because the dogs have gotten at her. And they report back to Jehu and say, "It's going to be real fucking hard to bury her because we found her skull licked clean and the palms of her hands torn off and the soles of her feet scattered about." Jehu says, "Well, Elijah the prophet, the burn fuckers alive prophet, he did kind of prophesy that. He said that was going to happen. Oh, well." And that's the end of the chapter. And I think we're just going to leave it there. It's been a little over an hour. I've glitched out and roboted a few times. We've come to a nice stopping place, and I think we're going to leave it at that. Thank you all so much for coming. Both my regulars and some folks who don't pop in very often. I certainly am glad to see each and every one of you. Particular thanks to my computer, messing up my flow. Hello, computer. Oh, don't tell me it's going to crash on me right here at the end. B says she likes Junk Shop's summary. Better story. Thank you so much. Well, my banners ain't working, but I got to say, as we head out, an extra special thanks to my patrons, to Paul Camish, to Brainbug, and to Linda, who are helping me improve the channel. Our Better Late stream. I'll go check out Godless Granny's stream tonight, which is at either 7 or 8 Central, and I don't for the life of me remember which. She and I have both been shilling it out on Twitter, so check us out over there. Godless Granny and Chris, the Atheist Pastor, and myself are going to be responding to Christian trolls. It's going to be a gas. I'm really looking forward to it. And a little bit of self-shilling. Dave, if you've got your world links handy, drop some links to David Worley's various stuff, because I'm going to be over on David Worley's channel tomorrow at 2 p.m. Central Time being interviewed, and I am looking forward to that just immensely. Yep, getting my notifications for Critical Cripple. Finally getting notifications for some stuff on time. All right. Well, again, thank you all so much for coming. I've had a terrific time, and I hope y'all have too. And as always, thank you, Dave. Thank you. Awesome. And as always, everybody, take care, be safe, fight against hate, and we will see y'all around. Bye, y'all. Love you all.